Hello. Today we're going to talk about self-care, and we are going to take a grown-up SEL commercial break. With that being said, I want to give credit to Tyler Withers, and he wrote this self-care packet toolkit for university students through the Wellness Education Center, and you can find more information hopefully at wec.uwo.ca. We're going to get right into the toolkit today and the purpose of the toolkit. A lot of times as students, whether you are undergrad or graduate student, or whether in our case, this was even for our staff and our coaches too, it's really important to see self-care beyond the superficial level of, take some time to take a walk, take a bubble bath, take a deep breath, and drink water. Good job, you've done your self-care. Sometimes you make things really surface level. This toolkit helps you kind of go a little bit deeper down. We're going to go to say, okay, wait a minute. What are some of the additional components of self-care when I'm caring for my total wellness beyond maybe just some of the things that I can do that you typically see on posters and what have you? So what we're going to, when you do this assessment, I do this with the students here at the university, but we talk about what are their strengths and their weaknesses. There's also a tool that we use when we're trying to look at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats that are present when we are looking at a situation with working with the student, with working with some of our schools, or just in general. And so with that thought in mind, using this information for students to really be able to see in the area of self-care, what are your strengths? What are you doing really well? And what are those things that are weaknesses? And what are some opportunities of things you could be trying that you just didn't think of? And then what are some things that are just really not going well at all, to the point where you can see the impact that they're having on your life? And then it tailors off into a questionnaire about stress, negative and positive stress. So for example, it breaks it down into different components. You're going to number those components 0 to 3. The first one is spiritual wellness. Basically, 0 means you've never done that before. 1 is this is something you rarely or barely have ever done or do. 2 is something you occasionally do, you're okay with it. And 3 is something you do really well and you do it frequently. The interesting thing about this assessment is that there also has a question mark. And that question mark is saying this never even occurred to me, which is really good when we're thinking about, well, what are some opportunities that we can take advantage of to improve our wellness in regards to self-care. The different components you'll see are spiritual wellness, academic wellness, financial wellness, mental wellness, physical wellness, social and cultural wellness, environmental wellness. And typically we don't think about things like that when we think about our wellness. We think about, yeah, maybe mental health, but we rarely attach that to, okay, well, what is your financial wellness doing? What is your academic wellness and your career wellness, in addition to your physical wellness and what have you? So what I was able to do using this tool, and I'm going to wrap this up, I was able to see that, oh my goodness, there are some areas that are definitely 3s. Those are things I need to stay consistent in. And even in the midst of stress or changing times or what have you, those are some things that I found that work for me, and I'm able to do consistently, and I benefit from those things. And so it was good to know, okay, wow, I'm caring for myself in that area. I was also able to discover, even though I have some strong areas, that there were things inside of those areas that just never occurred to me or that I consistently neglect. So for example, one of my areas under spiritual wellness that was high was listening to spiritual or calming music, whereas something that was a definite 1 was spending time outside with nature. And so I'm having to remind myself, okay, getting fresh air, going outside, even though in general that category was pretty strong for me, it doesn't mean that there's not areas that I can be aware of in that category. So one more example, or not example, when I looked at financial wellness, there were, let's just say there was only 1 3. There were more than 1 zeros. And I realized, okay, this is definitely an area that when I look at my total wellness, that I need to be attending to at a whole nother level. And this is going to require somebody outside of me, and this is going to require collaboration with my spouse and being able to get some clear understandings of some things and some better ways to do things. And once again, there were things that I hadn't really considered. There were things that I've tried and I didn't do well with, so I just kind of let it go. Or there were things that I do very inconsistently. And it was just very eye-opening to say, okay, I've done these things, but I have to look at them on paper and say, oh yeah, that's me. And what do I want to do with this information? Do I want this to be a barrier to wellness in this area? Or do I want to make this a more beneficial area in my life and play this up as more of a strength and look at opportunities in this area instead of allowing this area to lack the counsel or wisdom or stewardship that it really needs, and then it become a threat to some of the other areas in my life because I have not taken care of this. I've neglected it or avoided it. And that is kind of how the rest of the packet goes. So I encourage you to go through the toolkit, to go ahead and rate yourself, and then to go back and look at where are your strengths, where are some of the areas that are weak, where are some of the areas that have question marks that are or zeros that could be new opportunities, and then what are some of the things that you're looking at those zeros and those ones and you're saying this area could actually impact me, not just in this area negatively, but in other areas if I don't start to attend to it in a healthier way. The second part of the self-care assessment is a lifestyle behavior questionnaire. It's going to ask you questions that are based on what do you do under stress? Not what do you normally do, but what do you do when you find yourself under stress? And some of those are negative behaviors and some of those are positive behaviors. And that has been very helpful in working with my students because they're able to identify under normal circumstances, here are some things I do, but under stress, here are some ways that I cope with stress, and being able to say, are these negative? Are these positive? And maybe how can I switch to say, okay, when I'm under stress, so for example, mine was instead of overeating when I'm under stress, I can exercise. When I go to that urge to nibble on something, I can grab something healthy versus a bag of chips. I can grab grapes or carrots or something that I know I won't eat as much of. And at the same time, a positive behavior I can adopt that's going to be beneficial to multiple areas is getting up, playing my favorite music and dancing or doing something else. But letting myself, we talk about SEL in that first part being self-awareness, being aware of, okay, I can tell I'm under stress. I can tell because I'm reaching for food. I'm not hungry. It's not a mealtime. I'm just doing this to have something to do because I'm stressed at this moment, and being able to be aware of that. And then also being able to next one self-management to say, okay, but what am I going to do now that I'm aware of that symptom? Am I going to overeat? And it lists a couple of different things that students at university may do. And it's pretty evasive in terms of, it's going to ask questions like, do you overuse over-the-counter medications? Do you drink alcohol? Do you take additional caffeine? Do you have angry outbursts? Do you withdraw from people? Do you deny that you're even under stress? And I know a lot of people outside of just university students, especially people in education, you'll deny oh, I'm fine, it's fine, it's a light headache, no big deal. It happens, it comes, it goes. And it's just like your body's trying to tell you something. Listen. And then once you listen, what are you going to do to help your body out? So those are the very back of the toolkit, and it's packed full of twos. I'm not doing it justice, but in the very back of the toolkit, there's a section that says, okay, so really think about who are the people who are in your corner for the following. And it lists things like, who can I talk to if I'm lonely? Who will encourage me to, get up and move or get out the house or do something when I fall into my states of withdrawing from people or what have you. And then it says, make a list of people next. Once you know who your support team is and who your network is, then who are the people that, even though they may be good people, in certain situations, you definitely need to avoid. And it gave the example of if you missed out on an assignment and it was kind of big on your grade or something like that, this person knew, okay, I can't tell this to let's say my parent because or my dad, because my dad is very much about having things done on time, and he's going to just rail me about, how I should not have had it late. And it's just going to make me feel worse. And there's nothing I can do about it at this point. So I'm not going to talk to him about it. However, I may talk to my professor about it to say, I realized that this was turned in late and that I won't be receiving those points. Was there anything I'm going to do the assignment anyway so that I gain that knowledge, but is there anything in addition or additional resources that can guide me so that I'm better prepared for whatever the exam or the next assignment, so I'm not missing any gaps, what have you, and so that may be a better person to talk to. So knowing under what circumstances should we share certain things with others and what type of people to avoid so that we don't increase our level of stress and then walk outside of the wellness in the different areas that we've set up. So I encourage you, please take your time and go through the toolkit, use the pages that apply to you, and glean from that information what's beneficial in terms of, we say data helps drive different things, how we make next steps. So letting some of your personal data that you acquire from this self-assessment to then look at some next steps of what are some things that you see are your strengths, some weak areas, some opportunities that may be available to you, and then some threats or things that you really may want to start attending to because you don't want them to get worse. All right, have a great day and enjoy your self-assessment.